and welcome to TVI World special report on the visit of Iranian President His Excellency Dr. Syed Ebrahim Raisi's visit to Indonesia. Well, today I'm Audrey Toyo.
And I am Aisha Fabian. We are here joined by Tia Mariatul Kiptia, the faculty member focused on Middle East Studies International Relations Department from BINUS University, and also Agung Nurwijono, the lecturer at Department of International Relations, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, University of Indonesia, and one more, Yon Mahmudi, PhD, the head of Middle Eastern and Islamic Program, University of Indonesia. So Audrey, it's going to be a very warm and bilateral visit between two countries, Indonesia and also Iran. And hello, good morning, Pak Agung, who is joining us via Zoom.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning,
Hello,
Pak Agung.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you for having us as well. And also, hi, Ibu Tia, how are you?
Hello, Ibu Tia.
I'm good, Alhamdulillah.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
So with Ibu Tia and Pak Agung, we are today going to discuss more about, like, in-depth about the Indonesian and Iran bilateral relations and the purpose and also objectives of the President Syed Ebrahim Raisi visit to Indonesia.
Yes, and then later on with Layon, we will talk more about the history of the relationship between Iran and Indonesia, and as well as how Iran has been politically and historically in the past, and how that affects Iran's relationship with Indonesia as well. So without further ado, let us start with more news and introduction about Iran. So in terms of diplomacy, Iran and Indonesia have established relations since 50 years ago. Well, Iranian President Dr. Syed Ebrahim Raisi is visiting Indonesia today and tomorrow on the invitation of President Joko Widodo. During the visit, high-level delegation members of both countries will engage in exchange of views and bilateral talks.
And Iran and Indonesia have historical relations. Various historical records show that both parties had interacted since over 1,000 years before the birth of Islam. Similarities in culture and civilization between the two countries are evidence of their historical relations.
Well, there has been a great relationship between Iran and Indonesia since 1950, and both countries have had warm and friendly relations. And especially in the last couple of years, both countries have actively expanded cooperation in terms of politics, economics, culture, as well as other sectors.
Like Asian countries, especially Muslim majority countries like Indonesia, have a special place in Iran's foreign policy development strategies. In this regard, Iranian President Dr. Syed Ebrahim Raisi is visiting Indonesia today and tomorrow on the invitation of our President Joko Widodo.
And during this visit, Aisha, there will be an exchange of views and conversations between high-level delegations of the two countries, as well as signing of documents of cooperation, which is something that Aisha, as well as Ibu Tia, something that we definitely most likely look forward to. In terms of the field of energy, pharmaceutical, health products, food products, custom, bilateral trade facilitation, science and technology, culture, and several others that we shall see today.
Okay. So, before that, before we start our conversation today, Ibu Tia, we would like to give the audience more information about Iran first. So Iran is one of the most important countries which have close relations with Indonesia. The visit of President Syed Ebrahim Raisi to Jakarta today, May 22nd, 2023, marks not only a turning point in the bilateral relations between Indonesia and Iran, but also the commencement of a new chapter of the ties between the two great nations.
Well, now let's take a closer look at Iran and how the country and Indonesia have so far maintained as well as strengthened their tight connections of friendship and cooperation at all levels.
Iran is a mountainous, arid and ethnically diverse country of southwestern Asia. The country maintains a rich and distinctive cultural and social continuity since a very long time ago. In recent decades, it has become known for its unique brand of Islamic Republic. Geographically, much of Iran consists of a central desert plateau, which is ringed on all sides of lofty mountain ranges that afford access to the interior through high passes. Iran is bordered to the north by Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Armenia, the Caspian Sea, Afghanistan and Pakistan to the east, the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Gulf to the south, and by Turkey and Iraq to the west. The capital is Tehran, a sprawling jumbled metropolis at the southern foot of the Elbrus Mountains. Tehran and several other cities in Iran combine modern buildings with important landmarks from the past and serve as the major centers of education, culture, and commerce. In political aspect, Iran became an Islamic Republic in 1979, when the monarchy was overthrown and clerics assumed political control under Ayatollah Khomeini. Iran was one of the greatest empires of the ancient world and has long maintained a distinct cultural identity by retaining its own language. The current supreme leader is Ayatollah al-Khomeini. The supreme leader is the highest power in the country and appoints the heads of the judiciary, military, and media. Meanwhile, the incumbent president of Iran is Syed Ebrahim Raisi, who took office in August 2021. President Raisi followed his father's footsteps and started attending a seminary in the holy city of Qom at the age of 15. He became the deputy prosecutor in Tehran when he was only 25. In 2017, Raisi ran for president for the first time but lost to Hassan Rouhani in the election. Raisi again announced his candidacy for the 2021 presidential election and won the votings by defeating Muhammad Baqir Ghaliba. In terms of bilateral relations, Iran and Indonesia have maintained close relations. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo visited Tehran in December 2016 as a reciprocal visit by the Iranian President in April 2015. During his visit, President Jokowi held meetings with the then Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. And now, Iran's President Syed Ebrahim Raisi is in Indonesia in response to the invitation of President Joko Widodo. The visit marks not only a turning point in the bilateral relations between the two countries, but also the commencement of a new chapter in the relations between the two great nations. The stance of Iran and Indonesia herald the opening of a new era of relations between the two countries, which put respect and mutual understanding as top priority. With a long historical background, let's see both countries welcome the strengthening of cooperation in all prospective sectors and levels, with the fact that the two nations are influential, predominantly Muslim countries in the world.
Well, now that we've found out more about the background of the country of Iran, we are excited to dive deeper into conversation, especially with Ibu Tia, as well as Pak Agung, who is currently on Zoom, to learn more about this relationship between Indonesia and Iran. And also, we are quite excited to know what the outcome and deliverables will be from today.
Yes, and especially Ibu Tia, you used to live in Iran, as you mentioned before. And how is it from your own perspective? your time there to see Iran and Indonesia, the relationship? How is it?
Yeah, I think it is not surprise relations between Iran and Indonesia because based on the history, Indonesia and Iran have good relations. For example, in ideology, similar culture, like as far we know, same Islam in Bahasa Parsi, Hamme Musalmon, Mo Musalmon, and Shumma Musalmon. In English, maybe translate in English, you are Muslim and we are Muslim, and we are same. And Iranian said like that when I visited Iran in 2012. And then I think, for example, many languages between Indonesian language and Persian language, similar language words like the anggur, you know, anggur. Anggur in Bahasa is anggur, and then in Farsi language, anggur. And I think when I live in Iran, I see the similar culture, like for example, in Indonesia, celebrate the Muharram, that one Muharram, and in Iran also like that. So I think it's not surprise when the President Raisi visit in Jakarta.
Yes, as it is an invitation actually from President Joko Widodo, and since the last visit from the President of Iran was in 2015.
Yes.
And we would like to also ask Pak Agung, how do you see the visit of by President Ebrahim Raisi to Indonesia this time? How we foresee stronger ties between both sides in the future?
I think this is a very interesting question. During President Ibrahim Raisi's period, Indonesia, it's important to take into note that Indonesia as the first ASEAN countries visited by President Raisi here. Of course, I absolutely believe that this visit have a clear message to strengthen the relationship between the two as a form of partnership. And Iran and Indonesia, as Ibu Tia mentioned before, have many similarities. I think that similarities have encouraged the intention between the two countries to cooperate much more strategically. Both countries are predominantly Muslim countries, highly civilized countries, etc. And I think this visit also shows the Iran's gesture to build close relations, not only with Indonesia and ASEAN region, but also with Asia, under Raisi's balanced, smart, and dynamic foreign policy based on mutual respect for both countries. So I think it is clear that Iran sees Indonesia as one of the strategic partners in ASEAN and Asia Pacific.
And in terms of the relationship between Iran as well as Indonesia, before, like Ibu Tia said, and as well as Pak Agung said, that there are similarities between both countries. I wonder, I think one of the things that we can see is the religion part is one of the biggest similarities between the countries, and as well as Iran and Indonesia are both part of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which consists of many Islamic countries around the world to strengthen cooperation. Is that the factor that mostly bonds the countries or create a strong tie? This is a question to both Ibu Tia and Pak Agung, or are there other factors that can make the connection stronger, or is that the one factor that is the foundation for the relationship between both countries?
I think if you ask about maybe except the similar cultures and ideology between Indonesia and Iran, this is related to the change of the global politics, because I think Iran not only focus on resource energy, especially oil and gas, to develop their country, but try to the diversifications. And Iran choose the sea or ASEAN as a partner between Iran and ASEAN to develop together on economic sector. So Iran choose Malaysia and Indonesia as a good partner on economic sector because similar culture, similar ideology, and then maybe to counter the sanctions of U.S. and counter to power of U.S. Under the sanction of the U.S., Iran tried to approach to the ASEAN countries, especially Indonesia, the biggest country in Southeast Asia. I think like that. So this is the second visit, after President Hassan Rouhani in 2015 visited Indonesia, and then finally the Raisi visit Indonesia again, and I think in the future cooperation, economic cooperation, especially between Indonesia and Iran will increase, because in Hassan Rouhani focus on the tourism sector, for example, and then technology, and then the drugs, and now increase on not only technology, but in health product, food product, and maybe agriculture, in the next, and this is good, I think.
Yeah, I found some interesting points from you just said, but let's just hear from Pak Agung as well. How about from your perspective, Pak Agung?
Thank you. I think it's related with religious cultural relation, similarities. And I think in various cooperation between the two religious cultural, yes, I think one of the pulling factor. But I'm not thinking this is the determining factor. Yeah, the two countries see each other not only from their own identity, but also from the other actors such as geographical proximity. Both countries see each other as a regional power. Iran sees Indonesia as the regional power in Southeast Asia. And Indonesia also sees Iran as one of the regional actors in the Middle East. And also the factors of the capacity, including economy, energy, natural resources, development, etc. And also not only that things, also their action, I mean Indonesia and Iran's actions in multilateral cooperation, and how each other trying to give much more responses in many international issues under, yes, as we know today, we are living in the uncertainty world, and I think also important, in additional, the values of solidarity as the spirit built between Iran and Indonesia that has been built from the Asia-Africa Conference non-aligned movement, now implemented in the South-South cooperation. And in other words, I believe there are many aspects of power that encourage Indonesia and Iran to cooperate more intensively. And specifically about the religio-cultural identity, I think my dual respect, I think this factor, it is going to be a determining factor in certain specific issues. For example, both countries have so much responsibilities to promote true image of the Islam in the world, combat extremism, combat problem of Islamophobia, also working aside in the interest of the Palestinian people and Afghanistan issues. Decided, as we know that both countries initiated developing 8 organizations for economic cooperation between 8 Islamic majority countries.
True. And if we're talking about trade, as Ibu Tia mentioned also about trade, the similarities between the previous visit in 2015 and also in 2023, there is a specific trade sector that between Indonesia and Iran is medical, in terms of the medical thing. And as we also know that Indonesia is not the Islamic Republic of Iran's traditional trade partner, but there is the similarities on that sector as most especially, and how it is, how do you see it from the previous visit in 2015, and it will be like another expansion on that specific sector in medical here in 2023. Will it be like the major sector that they are going to discuss on this bilateral visit today?
Okay, according to the Pak Agung said that the Indonesia is very important area in Southeast Asia. Especially Indonesia is the center of point of the trade in Southeast Asia and Iran see about this and approach to Indonesia. And I think for the trade sector, Iran only focus on the energy. So like the health sector, food sector, yeah, just company with the center sector like the energy, because you know President Jokowi tried to ask to the Iran to supply the oil and gas for Indonesia, but I don't know. Finally, is failed. I don't know what is the reason, and the reason because of the oil product from the Iran not match with the Pertamina, for example, here. So the agreement cannot continue until the product come to the Indonesia. So the essential import from Iran to Indonesia is the energy sector.
Okay, okay. Now, if we're talking about trade, it's also interesting between the trade. Now it's the talk of the world, not talk of the town anymore. It's the China, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Because if we discuss about the oil energy, will impact to the another countries, China, and then how the alliance between the China, one group China. I divided two groups in the global politics. One group China, Iran, and Russia, and then the other side, one group America, US, and then Saudi Arabia and West countries. But finally, in the last issue, Saudi Arabia opened diplomatic and with Iran, and China emerged as a mediator. This is the surprise. So I think why the President Jokowi, this is not initiative from the China, from the President Iran, but I think this is the a purely invitation from our president, President Jokowi. And I think I have three reasons. The first, because maybe next election in 2024 in Indonesia. And then the second reason, because the China factor is dominant, how to manage the countries in the world to support the China ambitions, like the try to the open diplomatic between Saudi and Iran, and then how all allies with China support to the maybe Indonesia, because you know China invests infrastructure here. And then finally, maybe this is related to the how China collect all friends, like Indonesia, and then Iran, Russia. And so I think this is the effort how to counter the power of US in the world.
Yeah. And how about Pak Agung? How do you perceive Indonesia and Iran between the trade relation with China as well?
Okay, yeah. Actually, I think in this discussion we all agree that this visit should be such a momentum, in boosting cooperation between the two countries. But however, we also realize that Indonesia is not a traditional trading partner for Iran, and vice versa. And frankly speaking, in the changing and uncertainty world, building cooperation with non-traditional partners is a necessity. Moreover, in the case of Iran and Indonesia, both countries have actually already built initiatives to cooperate in various non-traditional areas here. And I think in these issues, there's a lot of level of cooperation that have been made. But moreover, something important things is, and I think this is the main course of this visit, the agreement of PTA, preferential trade agreement, that I think no longer will be signed by both two presidents. And this is such a framework for cooperation between two countries, because, as I said before, both countries need non-traditional trading partners. Indonesia has a problem, for example, to export palm oil, and Iran is one of the potential partner in order to export these commodities. And also from Iran, we have, as Bu Tia mentioned before about the oil. I think this is something interesting about this cooperation between the two countries.
In addition to that, Pak Agung and Butia, you've mentioned especially about the fact that China is trying to make alliances to other countries, and we can see that China is supporting Iran. Iran is supporting China, especially with the situation with China and Taiwan and safeguarding their sovereignty. And so this is something that we see that it's kind of like expanding their dominance over the world,
Yes.
the Western world and the whole world. I'm curious because Pak Agung mentioned about the preferential trade agreement, PTA, which is what the World Trade Organization says is an agreement for lowering the tariffs and making the trade opening more. Do you think that, what can we expect from the PTA between the two countries, especially in this visit? Do you think that there will be significant benefits for both parties of Indonesia and Iran?
Yeah, because it is related to the big ambition of the China Belt and Road Initiative. So how all countries, including the China's allies, support to the China's ambitions, especially on bridge projects. Yes, and then the trade attaché Iran said to me, disappointed with the trade between Indonesia and Iran because of the under sanctions U.S. It's very difficult. It's very hard for Iran how to cooperate in on economic sector, especially on trading, with Indonesia directly. Because if Iran will import, for example, via the third country, like the Turkey or Singapore. So in the future, hopefully Iran said that Indonesia and Iran will continue the economic cooperation directly, not via Singapore or Turkey, because not benefit for Indonesia and not benefit for Iran. And yeah, back to the China, because I think this is the change global politics in the Middle East especially, because as far we know, United Arab Emirates open diplomatic with Israel, and then Iran open diplomatic with Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia finally as opponent to the U.S. because refuse when U.S. asked to the supply oil. But yeah, it's surprise why Saudi Arabia refuse the asking the questions from the U.S. to supply the oil. I think it is because the politics of China to counter the power of U.S. And the bridge, for example, Brazil, Russia, India, China also try to collect the all organizations in the world, how to support to the China to develop the economy of the China. And finally, China emerged as the country in the world. Maybe, yeah, this is the related U.S. versus China, actually. Yeah. But, yeah, you know, Sinopec, the oil company from China, invests in Iran. And then in IOC, the one of company's oil from China invest also in Iran. So I think it's difficult for U.S. how to approach, for example, Indonesia, like the last period, President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and then last period like the Gus Dur, President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono after the reformasi era in Indonesia. It's difficult to U.S. approach Indonesia again because China dominant now, invest in Indonesia, especially on infrastructure.
Yeah, before we dig into Pak Agung's perspective, we would also like to be connected and share with you, the viewers, from the TV pool right from the Presidential Palace Bogor, because President Raisi is scheduled to arrive anytime soon, and will be welcomed by our President Joko Widodo.
Currently, we are still awaiting the arrival of President Raisi, and will be welcomed by President Joko Widodo. And so, continuing on that, Aisha, we would love to get Pak Agung's opinion on this before Ibu Tia talked about the dominance of China, not only on Iran, but also in Indonesia, which sometimes makes it a more complex relationship of trade between these three countries. And so coming back to the preferential trade agreement, the PTA that you mentioned before, Pak Agung, because we're currently at the 7th round of the negotiations. Do you think that this round will bring significant changes as well as agreements between Indonesia and Iran, knowing now that there is a complex relationship between the trade of Indonesia, Iran, as well as China?
Okay. Yeah, the issues of preferential trade agreement, I think, as I said before, this is the main course of this visit, yeah. And it based on the need for both countries to open up in new markets. So the framework of agreement is something needed by the two countries. And I absolutely believe that Indonesia-Iran preferential trade agreement as the gate to accelerating cooperation between the two. And as you said before, that has already in 7th round trade negotiations, and this is actually the final phase, and is planned to be signed during the meeting between President Jokowi and President Raisi. And this is such a commitment for those two countries to look for the new non-traditional emerging markets in Asia and Africa. And this is something that we need to realize that until now, we understand that when Iran's aspirations to enter Asia, Iran cannot rely solely on China. Iran needs others actors in this area. For example, so this is something important to make such a diversification in cooperations that need to be conducted. That's why this cooperation, I think, important to make Iran much more to enter this Southeast Asia's region. And I think also it is not such an intention to make such an alliance, but this is such a purely about how to make a strategic partnership for Indonesia and Iran in this area. I think
that's a very interesting key points that you said. To be a main course of discussion for today's bilateral visit between Indonesia and also Iran. So what do you see the potential sectors other than energy, medical, trade that both parties could bring to the table and ready for further discussions and cooperations? Maybe another tourism boost to follow up the last visit from 2015, or are there other sectors that can be put on the table?
In this, we follow that the issues of palm oil is something interesting. Yeah, Indonesia is facing, as we know, that Indonesia is facing problems with the EU regarding to the deforestation law, which makes it difficult to export palm oil to Europe region. And in these issues, that Indonesia is already from the Ministry of Trade making such a cooperation with besides Egypt, we have Iran, to enter Middle East as a market for Indonesia to export its own palm oil. That's why besides the commodities that you already mentioned before, palm oil, I think this is something interesting, commodities to be export besides a pharmacy, different health sector, maybe about the tourism itself. But these issues of the palm oil, something interesting regarding to the issues of the agreement in preferential trade agreement between Iran and Indonesia, I think,
There's most definitely a big market for palm oil, not only in Indonesia, but also to the whole world, especially now in this sector. And we'd like to get your opinion, Ibu Tia. Do you agree with Pak Agung that palm oil is
I will mention I agreed with the Pak Agung statement because, you know, Indonesia have a big problem cooperations between Indonesia and EU on the palm oil sector, because EU cut cooperations with Indonesia, and the reason is Indonesia not follow to the international ISO, international like the rules, like the rules. So I think President Jokowi tried to expand the palm oil sector to another countries, including the Middle East area, maybe Iran, one of the countries in the Middle East as the partner on the palm oil. And for the Indonesia expand also on the energy sector, not only from the America, US, like the ExxonMobil here, and then British Petroleum here, and maybe Indonesia not depend on only from the Western countries, from the America for the supply energy, but from Iran also, because Iran is the third producent, the big producent in the Middle East on oil and gas. So Iran is very important for Indonesia, how develop economy, because without the energy is nothing to develop the economy. Like China, how China approach to the Iran, approach to the Saudi, because is all about the energy sector.
Yeah. And there are actually so many rooms to enhance the cooperation, particularly in field of trade, like the palm oil, crude oil, and also in 2015, Iran-Indonesia trade value is only about like 300 million US dollars.
Yes.
And it is decreased actually from the previous years in 2011, which amounted only 1.8 billion US dollars. And how do you see like the potential in this new era? We can say that in this new presidential as well. What will be discussed between President of Iran and President of the Republic of Indonesia? Especially, this is the invitation from our President Joko Widodo. Like, how do you see it from the Indonesian point of view now?
Yeah, I think under the President Jokowi's administration, the relations between Iran and Indonesia is no problem. We'll good relations on trading, tourism, and almost all sectors, including the energy sectors. But if the election in 2024 will not will happen with relation between Iran and Indonesia, maybe if the candidate presidential candidate from the same party like the President Jokowi, maybe the policy will continue how approach to Iran, and Iran good relation, bilateral relation with Indonesia. But if the presidential candidate from the another party, I don't know. The policy will continue to approach to Iran to counter the balance, balance economy in the world, like not only depend on America, but Indonesia try to the standing between the West and East, between the America and its allies, and then the China and its allies.
Yes, those titans.
Yeah, we will see after the election.
So Audrey, we heard from both sides, from Ibu Tia and also Pak Agung as well, about the trade of palm oil from Indonesia to EU, how Iran can be like a bridge for the export from Indonesia on oil. But there are also other trade sectors, like exporting paper, crude oil, coffee, cocoa.
Yes.
And how about from your perspective, Pak Agung?
I think those commodities also have a chance to be much more developed under the preferential trade agreement. But that's the things that I can feel. But moreover, not only those things, Iran, as far as I know, that Iran also exports some commodities to Indonesia, like ferrous, steel, dates, and also Indonesia also export some commodities, including auto spare parts, for example, industrial products. So there's a lot of potential trade commodities between Iran and Indonesia to be much more bolstering in this under this agreement. So this is something that we have to take into note, that we are briefly optimistic about this agreement as a gate to accelerating cooperation between the two countries in order to enlarge, in order to increasing the volume, the quantity, the volume about these relations between Indonesia and Iran, I think.
And speaking about the exports as well as the trade, so we can see that there has been trade between both countries because they've had relationships since 1950, and so now they are strengthening this relationship, this bilateral relationship between the countries. And I'm wondering, and this question I would like to Pak Agung to answer first, is I wonder why the change of heart from Iran? Because you mentioned before, and we discussed before, that economic cooperation is a big factor, and there are, in terms of China as well, like Iran is trying to build up relationships in Asia, in China, in Southeast Asia. But what is the main reason or driving force, do you think, of why all of a sudden, and it's now, why now? Why the change of heart? And why now that Iran suddenly, after almost 73 years of diplomatic relations with Indonesia, we are starting to strengthen more of it? Is it purely for economic motives? Is it? I wonder. Or is there something else that is driving this change?
Okay. Under Raisi's presidency, I think Iran's, with its balanced, smart, and dynamic foreign policy, is trying to give such an approach to Asia. Even though, to be honest, many countries in the Asia, such as Iran, Emirates, Turkey, also maybe India, have a specific policy towards Asia's countries. So Iran, to be honest, is not the first country that turns its face to Asia. But after the COVID, we have trying to understanding about the context, about these situations. After the COVID-19 pandemic, I think the world faces a global uncertainty. Russia-Ukraine war, climate change problems, etc. Of course, many countries cannot rely on their traditional partners and trying to opening and intensively build cooperation with emerging markets. So I think Iran's, with its balanced, smart, and dynamic foreign policy, is trying to give such a different approach. And something interesting is the term of balance means Iran's trying to approach and prioritize developing closer with the neighbors, not only with the neighbors, but fostering the alliance with the ASEAN countries, greatly in economic diplomacy and international trade. That is the priority of it. So this is very, very pragmatic foreign policy that Iran is trying to be much more include in this situation. That I think this is the situation that we have, the reason why this situation we have to understand, because as also Bu Tia also mentioned, Iran also, Indonesia is having a problem to enter some palm oil to Europe. But in another case, Iran also have a problem to enter Europe. So that's why new traditional markets in terms of regarding to the economic issues is something important, because however, the relations that built by Iran's also pushed by the domestic aspiration. For example, economic problems nowadays in the world, every country have a problem, especially after the economic after the COVID-19 pandemics problems. So this is the way out. How Iran's trying to make such a different foreign policy with the balanced, smart, and dynamic foreign policy towards Asia, especially Indonesia.
And I think that's a great point that you raise up of Iran wants to be as inclusive, I would say, as possible with other countries, and especially Southeast Asia, the region that has been mostly, as you said, overlooked by other countries. And before we continue our conversation, currently we will move on to some news, but we are excited to discuss more about this as well.
Yes, and the state visit of Islamic Republic of Iran President Syed Ebrahim Raisi to Jakarta, which is a response to the invitation by President Joko Widodo, marks not only a turning point in bilateral relations between the two countries, but also the commencement of a new chapter in relations between the two great nations.
The stance of the two countries are the two regions of the Middle East and East Asia, cultural and civilizational commodities, and weigh the potential for cooperation in various fields, alongside the new requirements of the international order, herald the opening of a new era of relations between the two countries, hinged on respect and mutual understanding. Diplomatic ties between Iran and Indonesia are now entering their 8th decade, while resolutions between the two great nations have deep roots in history. People of the two countries, centuries ago, were able to establish profound bonds with each other through Islam, and Iranian and Indonesian Muslim scholars and intellectuals had beneficial interactions in past centuries. The linguistic ties between the two countries also serve as further evidence of the historical interactions between the people of the two nations throughout Asia. A considerable number of Persian words in the Indonesian language and shared assets, such as Imam Muhammad Ghazali, testify to the depth of historical connections between them and provide a basis for deepening the relations between the two nations. The Islamic Republic of Iran, within the framework of a balanced, smart and dynamic foreign policies, attaches special prominence to the development of relations with Indonesia. Fortunately, this determination exists on both sides, and the authorities of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Republic of Indonesia are resolute to create the required infrastructure and facilities for the development of relations in various fields. Links between Iran and Indonesia within the framework of South-South cooperation have a historical background and demonstrate the common approach of the two countries to create a balanced world. The two countries have common positions on regional, international and Islamic issues, and continuous negotiations between the two sides on these matters are ongoing. Recognizing the need to strengthen regional relations, the Islamic Republic of Iran commenced the performance of ASEAN and emphasized Iran's willingness to develop relations with other member states of the regional bloc within the framework of the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation signed between the two sides in 2017. Iran considers Indonesia's chairmanship in ASEAN an optimal opportunity for developing relations with the other member states of this progressive grouping. Iran also welcomes the possibility of regional connections between ASEAN and the Economic Cooperation Organization in West Asia.
Back to the studio. With me, Aisyah Fabian, and also Audrey Utoyo. And we are still with Ibu Tia and Pak Agung joining us via Zoom. We are still talking about the visit of the President of Iran today to meet with President Joko Widodo.
Yes. And so to continue our conversation, we just had a lively discussion about the relationship between Iran and also Indonesia, and specifically talking about the reasons why right now Iran is moving towards more Southeast Asian countries. And so we now would like to ask Butia, so the relationship between Iran and Indonesia, are they too late in terms of approaching Southeast Asia?
I do apologize because I said too late. President Joko will invite special invitation to the Iran. Why? Because I think in the start period, President Jokowi invite focus on the cooperation with Iran. As far we know, for example, Raja Nahyan visited Indonesia, and then Raja Salman visited Indonesia, and then the King of the Middle East and then President of the Middle East visited Indonesia and signed many agreements with Indonesia. But where is Iran? Only in 2015, Hassan Rouhani signed the agreement around the 20 agreement between Indonesia and Iran, and until now not landing, yeah, agreement between Indonesia and Iran. And how about the visit Raisi to Indonesia, like the Hassan Rouhani, President Hassan Rouhani, or not? Yeah, we will see, because yeah, I think how I said this is the too late President Jokowi invite the Iran, because the embassy of the Iran disappointed with the trade system, because always via the third country. I mentioned like the via Turkey and Singapore. This is the statement how Iran disappointed with the third system with Indonesia. And Indonesia actually, when the Iran complain about this, understand about this, and try to the approach to the Iran, because I think Iran in the Middle East is important country, because the production oil and gas and part of the allies with China. If Indonesia will continue to the cooperation with China, so Indonesia also cooperate with Iran also, yeah.
Yeah, but the bilateral relation actually has been going on since 1950, and you said it's too late. It's a little bit too late, but how too late per se? In 2015, both presidents met, and today we hope that it's going to be a follow-up from that previous meeting. Obviously, between the years gap, COVID-19 happened. And maybe that delayed all the bilateral meeting between the head of states. And how about Pak Agung? Can you say your point of view on this matter? It is like too late between
Agree with me, Pak Agung.
Yeah. Do you agree with Ibu Tia?
The relation between Iran and Indonesia in the terms of stable diplomacy, normal diplomacy, and these relations that you also already mentioned that it started from 1950s, and after that the spirit of solidarity between developing countries is dominated between the two countries in terms of Asia-Africa Conference, non-alignment movement. Until now, we already know about the South-South cooperations. But today's momentum, this is the momentum in order to bolstering, to accelerating the relation between the Iran and Indonesia. So I think I know it's not too late, but this is the momentum that find the time. The momentum find the time that this is the time after the 2015 Hassan Rouhani visit Indonesia, and after that Pak Jokowi visit Tehran in 2016. And we have the momentum of COVID. We have momentum of the uncertainty condition in the world today. So both countries thinking very hard to find another partners, in order to bolstering, in order to accelerating their own relations, economics, but not only economics, in the politics, also with the maybe in socio and cultural relation between the two countries.
There are two opinions here, and that makes very, very interesting. And maybe Pak Agung can also tell us about the traces of the Persians in Southeast Asia. It's like a cultural meeting that was held at University of Indonesia. Is it something that, what are the highlights from the meetings that day? Because it was attended by the Iranian cultural attaché in Indonesia, and also the Dean of the Faculty of Languages and Cultural Sciences from University of Indonesia. Is it something that has a correlations that we can discuss today, most specifically between the for the bilateral relations between Indonesia and Iran?
I don't have any specific information about it yet. Maybe Pak Yon after this can mention, because he's from the Faculty of Humanities in Universitas Indonesia. But above these issues, I think this is the also, as I mentioned before, about the socio-cultural cooperation. This is also something important made by Iran and Indonesia. Butia also mentioned many times about the relation between these two countries have a highly civilized countries. And in order to understanding about it, so we have to understand that this relation between Iran and Indonesia is not only stopped in the G2G level, not only in the government to government level, but also need to enlarge the relation in people to people context, like cooperation between scholars, university, between our ulamas, for example, to bring mutual understanding in many issues. Because Iran and Indonesia, we agree, we have similarities. We are both dominant countries, Muslim countries. In order to combat extremism, in order to fight Islamophobia, for example. So I think this level of cooperation is something important to be made in the near future. Yeah, specifically cooperation like scholarship, technology development, cultural exchange, also part of this cooperation. This is something important also, much to be developed between these two countries.
And most definitely, I think that's really interesting because the relationship between these two countries should actually be pivotal because they are both some of the biggest Muslim countries in the world. And so fostering a great relationship would only benefit both of them. And what are your thoughts on this, Ibu Tia? As mentioned before, Pak Agung, there are similarities between the cultures of Indonesia as well as Iran. And you mentioned that you were in Iran before. I heard that there are also some linguistic similarities between Iran and Indonesia.
Yeah, I agree with the statement of Pak Agung. I agree for this about Pak Agung mentions that the Iran and Indonesia not only focus on the economic sector, but cooperations focus on culture and then ideology also, and not only state to state for the cooperation, but people to people and business to business. I think more strong people to people, because you know in each university in Indonesia, Iran have Iran corner. Called is Iran corner. Iran corner like the part of the like the part of the Iran in each university in Indonesia. For example, in State University, Islamic University, UIN, Jakarta, Iran have a corner, Iran corner. And then UIN Bandung, Iran have Iran corner. And then the Malang University, Iran have Iran corner. I don't know, with the University of Indonesia, Pak Agung, I think Iran have Iran corner also, yeah. And Iran corner focus on education's cooperations. Iran give many scholarship for the Indonesian student, and then focus how to sharing each other for the culture, and then bahasa, language, and then Iran give scholarship for the short course in Iran, especially for the Persian language for the Indonesian student. I think this is the evidence how Iran pay attention to Indonesia on education sector. I think if the compare between the economic cooperations and education cooperation, the education cooperation is bigger cooperation than the economic cooperations.
Yeah. So is there an Iran corner in University of Indonesia, Pak Agung? This is going to be the last question for you, because we know that your time is very, very short for today.
I think so far as I know, especially in my faculty of Social and Political Sciences, until now there is no Iranian's corner in my faculty. But in this semester, we accept one of the Iranian students, funded by Ministry of Education, kerjasama beasiswa KEPNB, kerjasama teknik negara berkembang. We accept one of the Iranian students. This is something also interesting. That's why I mentioned about the scholarship. This is one of the bridge here in order to understanding between the two by the people-to-people context, I think. Yeah. But yeah, if until now there is no, I don't know, Pak Yun maybe already know, is there any Iran's corner in Faculty of Humanities? But I think this initiative, if is true, is made come true, I think this is something interesting in order to understanding about the culture, the political, the economic, the history between the two countries, between Iran and Indonesia, I think. Thank you for inviting.
Okay, it's a pleasure to having you sharing your insights with us this morning.
Yes.
Pak Agung Nurwirajono, lecturer at the Department of International Relations, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences from University of Indonesia. We really thank you for your time. And let's see how the follow-up and the outcomes from today's bilateral meetings between Indonesia and Iran.
Yes. Thank you, Pak Agung.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Have a nice day.
You too.
Thank you. Well,
So, okay,
yes.
now we're just three us ladies here still discussing about the bilateral relations between Indonesia and Iran. We would like to know, sharing from your own experience, Ibu Tia, while you live in Iran, what can you see, like the similarities and even the differences between the cultures, Indonesia and Iran?
Yeah, mostly according to the Indonesian people, between Iran and Indonesia, similar ideology, same like the Muslim. You are Muslim, you are Muslim. So I think it's a little bit different, yeah, different between the Muslim between Iran and Indonesia. Mostly Indonesia from the Sunni and Iran from the Shia. When I visited Iran, I think, why is different? A little bit different because we are Sunni mostly, and Iran Shia. And for the practice in ibadah, for example, prayer just a little bit different custom, yeah, between Indonesia and Iran. So Republic Islam Iran or Islamic Republic of Iran, I think different with the most population Muslim. Indonesia famous with the most population Muslim, but Iran established as the Islamic Republic of Iran. It is different, I think, because Indonesia pluralist based on the Pancasila rules, and then Iran under the Republic of Islamic Republic of Iran, and the political system in Iran different with Indonesia. Same democracy system, but in Iran actually Vilayat al-Faqih. Vilayat al-Faqih is like the power under the mullah like the Ayatollah Khomeini, and then another Ayatollah in Iran, mullah like the ulama in Indonesia. And if the president decided to policy, if the mullah cannot agree with the policy of the president will cancel the policy. So the structure is Vilayat al-Faqih, mullah is powerful than the president. Allah based on the Quran, and then president, and then this is mullah. And the program of the executive president, for example, will cancel if the mullah not agree with the decision of the president. So this is the different with Indonesia. It's very different.
Yeah, and that is very interesting and something that we are really excited to get more into. Before that, we will have some more background on the bilateral relationship between Indonesia and Iran. Well, both countries have seen 73 years of diplomatic relations, and we are excited to talk more about it today as well. In terms of the relationship of the Iran-Indonesia, especially with the visit today of President Raisi to the palace, I do believe that it will bring a lot of changes, as we talked before in conversation with Ibu Tia, as well as Pak Agung, in that I'm curious of actually the deliverables that will come at the press statement, and not only will they go to the palace and meet with President Joko Widodo, but they will also meet with the head of
Parliament, yes.
of the parliament, Ibu Puan Maharani, and as well as all the other ministers there. And so I think that's something that we are most likely looking forward to today.
Is it possible they will discuss about the next election in Indonesia? We don't know.
Oh, that's
because how the President Raisi visit to the head of parliament in Indonesia? Because yeah, usually President Rohani, for example, visit Indonesia only meet to the President Jokowi, not for the head of the parliament. Maybe I think it is very important how the President Jokowi invite the President Iran, because it's related to the domestic politics in Indonesia also, not only about the economic cooperations. Because based on the data, Iran's success approach Indonesia on culture and then education sector. And economic sector, for economic sector, I think if compare the United Arab Emirates, more success than the Iran, how to approach to Indonesia. So I think, yeah, I don't know, maybe in the head of parliament, maybe they will discuss about the next election in Indonesia, because who is the next president in Indonesia is very important for Iran. Yes.
Yeah. And we are going to discuss it together with Pak Yon Mahmudi, PhD, Head of Middle Eastern and Islamic Program from University of Indonesia, who is already joining us via Zoom now too. Pak Yon, how are you? Good morning.
Good, thank you. Good morning. Nice to meet you, Tia.
Hello, Pak Yon.
It's great to have you here, Pak Yon.
The anchor will ask about the Iran corner in Pak Yon, because under the under the faculty of Pak Yon as a leader.
Yes. We were talking about that, if University of Indonesia has Iran corner.
Yeah, actually we don't have the Iranian corner right now, but for instance, in Faculty of Humanity, we teach Persian language. This is also the history of the Iran in the Faculty of Humanity. But for a special place, corner, center, for instance, Iranian corner or Iranian center, right now we don't have that kind of center. But probably in the next future we can develop such important center in our university.
Hope that with this visit can definitely strengthen the relationship between two countries. And so speaking about visit, currently we are going to move to the TV pool, and we are excited after this to have a conversation with Ibu Tia as well as Pak Yon. But currently we are going to look at the TV pool, because it seems like they are awaiting the arrival of President Raisi, and we can see people in traditional costumes holding the Iranian flag.
Yeah, so this is the live visuals from Bogor Presidential Palace, where President Joko Widodo invited President Raisi from Republic Islam of Iran for a bilateral visit today. And whereas President Raisi will spend a couple of days here in Indonesia with a list of agendas to discuss potential bilateral relations for both countries. So as we can see, the troops are already in place to welcome the President of Iran.
They were coming wearing the traditional custom, because maybe Indonesia want to show to the Iran, this is Indonesia. Pluralism, and then not refer to the Islamic state, for example. So we are the Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, like that. So I think this is the different with the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yes. And also, Pak Yon, what are your thoughts currently of, they are awaiting the arrival of President Raisi. What are your thoughts of the preparations, as well as you can see at the TV pool, of how it has been and now waiting for his arrival?
Maybe in terms of culture, Pak Yon?
Okay, yes, I think this is a very what we call as the momentous times for the President of Ibrahim Raisi to visit Indonesia, because we know that the between Indonesia and Iran actually have a long history of cooperation, but of course there is kind of difficulty, kind of barriers to proceed more strategic and more more open relationships. So this moment, I think, the good moment for the president of the Iranian Republic to visit Indonesia to strengthen and more collaboration in any kind of aspect with the Indonesian Republic of Indonesia. So, and Iranian become more open, and I think very good for us to receive the president of the Iranian to visit Indonesia and to talk about more strategic issues and also more strategic cooperation with the people of the Iran.
Yes, we discussed the potential sectors that are going to be put on the table with Butia and also Pak Agung earlier before. And how about you, Pak Yon? If you could share with us your thoughts, what are the potential sectors for these bilateral meetings? Is it going to be a follow-up from the last bilateral meetings between the two presidents in the 2015, even though it's different regime, it's different president, but is it going to be a follow-up that is going to be put on the table to be discussed and for the outcomes and the delivers?
Yeah, of course, this meeting also part of the previous meeting that already set up before. And if you want to know the mission, the aim of the visit of the President, the Islamic Republic of Iran, we can see the member of delegates. Yeah, for instance, there is also the Vice President for Science and Technology. There is also the Minister of Foreign Affairs, so it could be related to the politics or global issues, and also the Minister of the Technology, the Minister of the Oil, and also it is very interesting to see the First Lady of the Islamic Iranian Republic. Yeah. We see the Jamila, the First Lady of the Iran, also visit during this very good moment of visit. So those things I think will be discussed and put on the table. The issue of course, we need the alternative sources of the oil and gas from the Iran. The Iran, of course, we see that Iran is very progressing in technology, and then it is very surprised us that beside of the sanction imposed by the United States of America, the progress of technology, the progress of the defense system also very strong in Iran. And of course, the issue of the economy, the barrier during the economic cooperation, I think will be solved. For instance, because of the sanction imposed by US, it is very difficult for the businessmen of Indonesia to proceed the transaction and related to the economy. And so we need to reduce kind of the fee, tariff, for export and import. So many things I think can be discussed on during this visit.
Yes, most definitely. We will look forward.
I will give a sample about this. My friends in Iran try to send the product from Iran, but it's difficult because the sanction, under sanction the US, and finally the business only people to people, not state to state, because Iran sent to me, for example, and I sell this product in Indonesia, and for via state it's difficult, I think. Yeah, this is just sample because Pak Yon mentions, yeah, it's difficult to cooperate between Iran and Indonesia under the sanction of the US.
That's correct, especially with the sanctions. And so now let's take a look again at the TV poll at the Bogor Presidential Palace as we believe, Aisha, minutes away from the arrival of President Raisi, and we can see some of the soldiers and troops marching as well.
Yes, this is a ceremonial where usually President Joko Widodo or our head of state will welcome a bilateral visit from our close country relation.
And this is most definitely a historic moment because the last visit, as we have discussed before, is by another regime in 2015. So it has been 8 years. And currently there is a new president, and as well, Pak Yon also mentioned that he is excited to also see the First Lady of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The music that we are currently listening to is
almost the leader from the middle is always in Bogor, right?
Oh
yeah. For example, Raja Nahyan in Bogor, and then President Iran in Bogor.
Yes, that's correct. And we can
because
see that
like the jungle, you know, in the Middle East is very hot weather. So President Jokowi will show this is my country, is very comfortable, and then.
And now we see our President Joko Widodo.
And we are marching to traditional Indonesian songs, national Indonesian songs that we usually hear sing in Indonesia. And so I think that is that's quite iconic of how, as Butia also mentioned before, the costumes, the music that is chosen for this particular visit is very Indonesian and very nationalistic because President Joko Widodo also wants to show this is, you know, this is our country.
This is the policy of the President Jokowi.
Yeah,
almost the welcoming or with the leader from the overseas visit to Indonesia. This is Indonesia wearing the traditional custom, and then we'll show Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, pluralism, many islands, a lot islands in Indonesia.
And especially this is the first visit of President Raisi to
President Raisi will see this is the population Muslim, but the wearing without hijab, for example. Different with the Iran because the women in Iran have to wear hijab.
Yes, political situation.
Must wear hijab.
And also, we would like to ask Pak Yon as well. Pak Yon, we've discussed before with Tia of how specifically with President Joko Widodo, there's always a showcase of cultures, especially as Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, and now we can see the TV pool, it's national songs as well as national costume. Why do you think that is the case for right now, especially with Iran? And what is the significance? Because I think this is a whole new chapter that we are opening as well.
This is yell.
Yes.
Pak Yon speechless.
I think. Yeah.
Cooperation with other countries. So it is very important also to see that the president of the Iran, Said Raisi, also bring his first lady. So I think this is also a unique phenomenon when the leader of the Middle East during his visit, then also accompanied by the First Lady. So this is, I think, very good moment to show the diversity of Indonesia and also to see the difference of the Iranian culture also, even though it's not too much show up in this event, but yeah, there is kind of hope for the cooperation between Iranian and Indonesia in terms of the culture, diversity, and civilization.
Joko Widodo. And just in a moment, we will hear both national anthems from two countries.
Lapor, upacara siap dimulai. Selanjutnya pasukan siap diperiksa.
President Joko Widodo and President Raisi are walking hand in hand at Bogor Presidential Palace. And before this, we have seen the official welcoming ceremony from President Joko Widodo.
And we can see both head of state are looking fresh and welcome, and they look ready for this bilateral meeting that will be held today. They will discuss several issues, especially on the economic trade sector. This is now where both the president will introduce their delegates.
We can see the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Retno Marsudi, is there.
officials who are accompanying the President of Iran include the Vice President of Science and Technology, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Information and Communication Technology,
Yes,
the
Mr.
Minister of Petroleum, and a number of deputy ministers and leaders of the government from Iran.
Mr. Arifin Tasrif is also there. And also, they will not only meet with ministers today, but also with the heads of the parliament. And we can see that they are heading up the steps of the Bogor Presidential Palace. And before, there were two national anthems eyeshadows played. The one is Indonesia Raya, which is the Indonesian national anthem, as well as the Iran national anthem, which is Sorute Milliye Cumhuriye İslamiye Iran.
And after the introduction from two countries' delegates there that are attending the meeting today, it is followed by the photo sessions between two presidents. And now President Raisi will sign the guest book. This is the palace guest book signing. It is also a routine, a ritual that we have, the Indonesian have, every time we welcome a bilateral visit from another head of state.
And currently we are seeing that they might be on the way as well to go to the meeting, which is where they will most likely speak about the issues that are at the forefront of the agenda today. And as we have seen right now, currently Ibu Tia, as well as we have Pak Yon on Zoom, that President Raisi has arrived at the Bogor Presidential Palace and also has been welcomed by President Joko Widodo. And so before we talked about the sectors that will most likely be discussed in terms of energy or trade, or also Pak Yon mentioned defense. And so currently we can look at a TV pool
where both presidents are waving their hands to greet us too. And this is also a ritual that President Joko Widodo would do if he received a bilateral visit from another head of state. He will take them to the patio and show around maybe the how the Bogor Presidential Palace look like. And we wonder if today they will also have a tree planting, because it's also a routine. Yes. It's a casual talk, and we can see like the mood between two presidents are good.
Yes, it seems.
It's a good vibes.
We can see good vibes from both of them. And I think especially meeting in a Bogor Presidential Palace where it's surrounded by mostly nature, like Ibu Tia said before, mostly nature, it's trees. I think it gives more of a relaxed, informal setting that will enable people to get ready for the formal meetings that will happen inside.
Same, the most populations Muslim, but different custom, yes?
Yeah.
That's correct. Different culture and customaries, like you said.
President Jokowi wearing the blazer, tuxedo, and President Iran wearing the traditional custom in Iran.
And this is the talk currently at the Franda, and it is again something that is usually done by members or heads of state whenever they have a visit to the Bogor Presidential Palace to have a talk as well as a picture before in the outside region of the palace.
They both are smiling, so hopefully this is a good sign before the close meeting later. So now they are heading back inside the palace. Later on, the agenda for today's bilateral meeting between Iranian President and Indonesian President is to have a close meeting and followed by joint press statement for the outcome from the meeting. So, what do you think, Ibu Tia and also Payon joining from Zoom, seeing both presidents now walking relaxedly around Bogor Presidential Palace, like how the mood that you can see, like is it intense because we know that
intense but relaxed, yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
Because we know that the topics and issues that are going to be discussed on the table today is not light. Yeah. It is. There are some sensitive topics as well because of what is currently happening in the world that between the EU, China, Taiwan, and so on. It must affect the trade, the economic sector between two countries. So, how do you see it?
Yeah, I see based on the delegates from two countries. Yeah, I see the Minister of Trade of Indonesia and then Minister of Technology and Trade of Iran. I think only two sectors. Yeah, focus on Indonesia and Iran cooperations. Number one on energy sectors, and number two I think on trade sectors. Yeah.
Yes, and
based on the delegates from two countries, only trade and
we're seeing
energy.
A tree planting currently, and specifically, usually for every single heads of state, there are always different trees that are planted, and it is in accordance and in alignment to the theme of the bilateral cooperation and agreement for those countries.
This is the symbol, right? Symbol of agreement.
It is most definitely symbolic of agreement for both countries, the tree planting. And Pak Yon, what are your opinions as well of this tree planting that is symbolic and historic between President Joko Widodo and President Raisi?
Yeah, I think it is always nice to talk with the Iranian leaders. They are very warm and respectful, and also if we, meet with them, always show the polite way to talk with each other. And the trees, I think the symbol, do you know what kind of trees that both president planned in this occasion? I think it mentioned the trees of Ulin. Do you know the trees of Ulin? I think symbol of very strong, permanent, and also I think will show that this cooperation expect to be last very, very long and will give a very big impact to Indonesia and the people of Iran in terms of the cooperation in any aspect, either in education, trade, technology, and other things that they can solve in order to make a strong cooperation between Indonesia and the Republic of Islamic Iran.
A funny thing that is, this is the same tree that was planted with the EUA visit to the presidential palace back in 2017. Yes, it's pohon ulin. So maybe the philosophical can be the same, where Indonesia expects the bilateral relations between Indonesia and Iran would be like strong and long-lasting, because pohon ulin is originally came from Borneo, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Very strong three. So we expect that the relation between Iran and Indonesia will the same as expect the relation between the EU. So there is no kind of differences between the Iranian delegation and the EU. Welcomed by the president and also, of course, the Republic of Indonesia. So this is kind of the expectation that, you know, for the long term will go very smooth and also have long-lasting impact on Indonesia and cooperation in general.
And also, we can see currently, if we look at the TV poll, it seems that both presidents and heads of states are walking alongside each other, heading back into the palace. And each of them also have a selected delegate, Aisha, who always accompanies them in terms of meetings and in terms of any conversations that they would have.
And Payon and also Ibu Tia, we received an information that President Raisi, before he headed to the Bogor Presidential Palace, he was scheduled to put a bouquet of flowers at the Kalibata Hero Cemetery before holding a bilateral meeting with President Joko Widodo. Can you share your thoughts on that? Like, why? And is it something that usually be done? And why a head of state to put a bouquet to the national cemetery before doing the bilateral meeting?
Because maybe Pak Yon more expert than me. This is related to the ziarah, Pak Yon. You know, ziarah, because ziarah is or similarity. Iran want to show ziarah is the traditional or culture, same culture with Indonesia.
Yes, because
please, Pak Yon.
it's not.
I think of course to respect the hero of the Indonesians. Hero, it is very important for Iranian people. And second, also the similarity of tradition of the ziarah, as Batia also speak about the importance of the ziarah. So it is very different if we compare to the culture of the Middle East in general regarding the respect of the dead person. So the first thing is also to come into the to have the ziarah. And this is also to show that between Indonesia and the people of the Iran have the similarity in terms of the practicing ziarah in this term.
Will have that schedule before having a bilateral meeting.
Usually the leader from the Middle East not visit to the makam, to the
Yes, it is not typical of world leaders to would like to do that. I think it again shows, as Pak Yon has said as well, as Butia has said, it shows the significance and the similarity between both countries. And I think the action that was done or scheduled to be done by President Raisi is also a sign to President Joko Widodo and also Indonesia that of solidarity. Because I mean,
as a brother, as a Muslim, you are Muslim, you are Muslim, like that. So because mostly the Indonesian people, part of the Indonesian people see that Iran is not included to the Muslim because I think like from the radical groups, Islamic radical groups, see that the Shia is not included to the Muslim. And ziarah and visit to the Kalibata, President Raisi want to show we are Muslim like you.
Yes, because the two countries have common positions on regional, international, and obviously Islamic issues, and continuous negotiations between the two sides on these matters are still ongoing. Like, Payon, can you also elaborate, like, what common approach of the two countries to create a balanced world?
Of course, this meeting is full of the symbol, I think, in order to make two country more close and close, because before there is kind of gap with the relationship between the Indonesia and of Republic of Iran because of so many stigma about this country. So how to bring those two countries become close together? So this is also become a very important, and we see that in many occasions in international dialogue, the position of Indonesia very clear when the Indonesia support the Iranian in order to lift the imposed sanction done by the United States. The position of Indonesia, of course, very clear that Indonesia side with the Republic of Iran. This is not fair to give the sanction to the Iran because the Iranian already follow what the international agency order to Iran, including the issue of the nuclear, the issue of the other things that Iran become the threat in the Middle East. So this is also, I think, to show that to the public that Indonesia already support the Iran in terms of the diplomacy dialogue, yeah, that to show the justice in the world order, to see that the sanction is not as the way, you know, to have the cooperation. So the soft diplomacy is more important rather than the hard power. So this is, I think, the era of the diplomacy, the era of cooperation between a country in the Middle East, and also will give impact to Indonesia. So the situation in Middle East right now is very different. There is normalization between the Iranian and the Saudi. So the visit of the president of the Raisi right now, I think in the momentum, a very good momentum. There is no strong resistance right now to the Iranian, but there is kind of the open, more cooperation, collaborative agreement between a country and Indonesia. I think will give impact in terms of to strengthen cooperation with the Iran.
And also, by on that, before this, we had a lively discussion as well with Ibu Tia and Pak Agung about the intentions of Iran's visit to Indonesia. I mean, they were invited by President Joko Widodo, but we can see that now they are expanding not only to Indonesia, but also to Southeast Asian countries. Do you believe that the intentions are purely for economic cooperation as well as trade? Or are there any other, I would say, motives or goals that Iran has as well for this visit to Indonesia?
Of course, always there is kind of what we see between the economic and politics, yeah, always intertwined. We cannot decide which one is the first motive. But if we see that the president of the Raisi also will visit East Asia, China, it is also, I think, to strengthen the traditional cooperation between the China and Iranian. As we know that when there is no country will buy oil from the Iran, and China, I think, the first country who want to buy the oil and gas from the China. And also, I think Japan have also strong relation with the Iran, if we don't know in the surface, but in fact, in the practice, Japan also buy many oil from the Iran because the oil is cheaper comparing to the oil, you know, buy from the other Middle East. So of course, this visit, I think, together between visit Indonesia, China, is one package between the political motive and also economic enhancement in order to strengthen relationship between the China, Indonesia, and we consider that Indonesia, I think, the most important state right now in the world, because the Indonesia representing the biggest Muslim country and also the more emerging in terms of the economic in the future.
We have discussed that before, yeah, Ibu Tia.
Yeah, I mentioned too late because the product oil of Iran is cheaper than from the Western.
Yeah, but we hope that it is not too late. It's maybe it's better late than never.
Yeah,
certainly. And while President Joko Widodo and President Raisi are still discussing on the veranda talk, we would like to share with you the profile from the President of Iran, Sayyid Ibrahim Raisi Sadati, commonly known as Ebrahim Raisi, is an Iranian politician and Muslim jurist who becomes the 8th and current president of Iran since August 3, 2021. So here's a short profile of the Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi.
Born on December 14, 1960 to a clerical family in Nogan district of Mashhad, Raisi has served in several positions in Iran's judicial system. Raisi's previous positions included Deputy Chief Justice from 2004 to 2014, Attorney General from 2014 to 2016, and Chief Justice from 2019 to 2021. He was also prosecutor and deputy prosecutor of Tehran in the 1980s and 1990s. He is a member of Assembly of Experts from South Khorasan province, being elected for the first time in 2006. Raisi is married to Jamila Alamul Huda, associate professor at Tehran's Shahid Beheshti University and president of the university's Institute of Fundamental Studies of Science and Technology. Raisi's father-in-law is Mashhad Friday prayer leader and Grand Imam of Imam Reza Shrine, Ahmad Alamul Huda. Raisi and his wife have 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren. In 2017, Raisi ran for president as the candidate of Popular Front of Islamic Revolution Forces, a conservative party in Iran. However, he lost to incumbent President Hassan Rouhani, who won with 57% of the votes against 38.3% on Raisi's side. Raisi won 62.9% of the votes when he ran in his second attempt in the 2021 election.
Well, now we have seen a profile of President Ebrahim Raisi, who is currently speaking with our own president, Indonesian President Joko Widodo. And now we would like to discuss more again with Ibu Tia as well as Pak Yon on the relationship between Iran and Indonesia. So just before the profile, we discussed about the intentions and motives of Iran visiting Indonesia. And so do you think, Pak Yon as well and Ibu Tia, that with this visit, particularly to Indonesia, is this a sign that Iran will start strengthening cooperation to other countries or visit other Southeast Asian countries, especially because we have seen before in the ASEAN summit that ASEAN currently wants to become an epicentrum of growth for the economy, and all the world leaders are coming together in order to strengthen that as well. Is that another factor that makes Southeast Asia attractive to Iran? And so do you think from this visit, it's a sign that Iran will start visiting other Southeast Asian countries?
Okay, I think not only with Indonesia, let's see the data, how Iran approach to the another countries in Southeast Asia, for example, with Thailand, Malaysia, So I think trade cooperation between Indonesia and Thailand is big also like Indonesia. I think Indonesia under the Thailand. If the data between the Thailand and Indonesia, they show the cooperation on economic sector, not for based on the same similar culture and ideology, but purely business is business, purely benefit sector. Because Thailand and Iran cooperate with the trade, for example, and then invest in Thailand is very increased significantly.
And also, Pak Yon, will we see more concrete actions of Iran with other Southeast Asian countries that now we see that Iran is strengthening its relationship with Indonesia? Are we going to see the same pattern duplicated in other countries as well in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, in general, if we see what happened in Middle East, the Middle East right now in terms of the the international foreign policy now what they call is toward the Asia, tawajjuh ila Asia. So this trend also followed by the Iranian people. Of course, the Iran for many times want to expand their role in other world, in particular in Asia, but there is kind of a barrier. There is kind of the challenge when the Iran want to involve in any kind of the meeting agreement with other country, because the position of the Iran at the time still under the sanction of the United States. So there should be courage in order to meet with the Iran Republic of the Iran, because of the some Western country, the U.S. country also is not favor to the Iranian country. So this is, I think, a very good opportunity to have welcomed by the Indonesian president, and also then after that the Iranian state can expand to other country. Of course, in terms of this visit, so many things that the Iran want to share in terms of the economic, technological cooperation. Because before there is what I can say that there is barrier, there is sanction. So in terms of the banking system, for instance, in terms of the transaction, also very hard for Iranian to have the more cooperation with the other country. But right now we see there is kind of trend to have the local currency transaction, not only rely on the dollar, but there is possibility to have transaction in local currency. This is also will open more cooperation, more open relation with the other country, and Iran, I think, can fulfill and will use this opportunity to expand this possibility.
And we discussed on more about trade and economy earlier before with Ibu Tia and also Pak Agung as well. But Pak Yon, it's from your perspective, we would like to know, and also you just mentioned about the political aspect between two countries, between Indonesia and also Iran. On the last meeting in December 2016, the foreign minister Retno Marsudi said that the relations between Iran and Indonesia are in good conditions. But since 2016, there has been a lot of things happening in the world.
Yes.
Like the change of the president of Iran, because at that time it was President Hassan Rouhani, and now we will be discussing on maybe similar matters with President Raisi. And President Raisi on the UN General Assembly also mentioned about how the COVID-19 has changed the world, and it was just a wake-up call. So, and in terms of political as well, we slightly just discussed about like how the U.S. With Iran and other countries, developed countries more specifically. And how do you think, Pak Yon, after like so many things happening in the world since 2016 and since the COVID-19, and in this past couple of years with the crisis that involves the United States as well, how it will affect the bilateral relations, the political relation between Indonesia and Iran?
Yeah, if we see the president of Raisi is the person, as we see, you know, his profile, he is come from the jurists, come from the faqih that have very strong position in Iran. So his position, I see that there is no one can remove him, because he came very strong position from the very strong family, very strong religious affiliation that become the foundation of the Iran. So the president of Raisi has a very, determined in order to direct the foreign policy including to have more cooperation with the other country. The situation, I think, has been changed during the COVID-19. Yes, of course, the Iran also suffer from the COVID-19, but now they can survive and also, can show that the economic still is not very good, but still in moderate way. Then they can survive under the sanction of the United States. They can also have a relationship with the other side, not with the America, but with the good relations with Russia, good relation with China, and now also have good relation with other dominant states, including what we call it Saudi as the hegemonic hegemonic power in Middle East. So in this occasion, I think the position of Iran become more strong because the United States already withdraw its position hegemonic condition from the Middle East, and now there is kind of the vacuum, and the Iran will be a very strong leader. So in order to have the balance, the leader of the Middle East want to talk, want to sit together, so to have the harmony of the Middle East. So the condition also will affect the situation in, we hope the situation in the Middle East will be good, prosperous, and also become progressive in terms of the economic. Then this condition will bring to the Asia, including to Indonesia, to strengthen, to talk about the many possibility to get opportunity in trade, even in politics and other issues, that they can strengthen each other.
And speaking about the foreign policy as well as diplomatic relations between the countries, recently there has also been reconciliation of the two countries, of especially Iran as well as Saudi Arabia. And so after this, we're going to go into news to see about what that bilateral relationship is now like. So after 7 years of diplomatic estrangement, Saudi Arabia and Iran recently resumed relations with an agreed commitment to turn the page on differences and normalize relations that have witnessed many tensions over the past decade. The two sides agreed to respect the sovereignty of states and not to interfere in internal affairs, to resume relations and to reopen embassies within a maximum period of 2 months.
Tehran and Riyadh agreed to activation of the 2001 Security Cooperation Agreement as well as the 1998 General Agreement for collaborations in areas of economy, commerce, business, technology, science, culture, sports, and youth. The Saudi-Iranian agreement is considered the most important diplomatic event in the region during the past years, and it will have many repercussions and indications on the conflict-ridden Middle East region. It is obvious that there will be many shocks in the days to come. The decline in the US-Saudi ties and Saudi Arabia's openness to China and Russia could change the balance of power in the region and the world. The Iranian-Saudi deal, which was supported by China, was also a serious setback for the United States and its ally, Israel, which may force the US to change its foreign policy and rearrange its cards again to restore its influence in the region after it witnessed a major shift toward East Asia, away from the Middle East and the Arabian Gulf. The Iranian-Saudi deal, if it is upheld and carried out by both parties, will have great and positive repercussions on the Middle East region, which has been inflamed by conflicts for many years and will mark the beginning of a political solutions to many heated and crisis files in the region, such as the Yemeni, Syrian, and Lebanese crisis. This agreement will not be the end of all their conflicts, but it is an important step toward developing common visions for thorny issues in a way that contributes to resolving the internal crisis of many countries in the region, which may need a long time to be resolved due to lack of trust between the two sides, as well as the existence of the international and regional countries which are not satisfied with the agreement and will try hard to thwart it. The commitment of the two parties to the deal and the impact it will have on the regional and international situation will become more clear in the coming months, as well as whether it will result in stability and security in the region or spark new and more complicated confrontations.
That's to sum up the Saudi, Middle East, and also Iran political relations. And now we are obviously going to know how the development of the political relation as well between Indonesia and Iran. And I would like to ask from your point of view, Ibu Tia, how do you see it? Because Pak Yon also mentioned like how Indonesia and Iran wants to make a stable peace countries, especially because we are both with the most Muslim population countries, and how it is, how to tackle and how to reach the goal of that, to make peace, to be like a country with that prosper as well.
The answer is China. China is dominant because, as far we know, the diplomatic relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia is very difficult.
Yeah.
The last issue, Saudi Arabia execute to the figure Shia, Sheikh Nimar al-Nimr in Saudi Arabia, and Iran very disappointed for these decisions. And Iran protests to the Saudi Arabia. For Iran, Saudi Arabia is the enemy #1 in the world. And for Saudi Arabia, like that. So when the two countries open diplomatic relation, it's surprise. Why? Oh, the answer because of China. China emerged as a mediator between two countries, and China invests in Saudi Arabia a lot of investment. And then China also invests in Iran. So I think how with Indonesia create a peace, China success create a peace between Saudi and Iran, and how with Indonesia. I think the President Jokowi invite the President Raisi come here because of China. I don't know. According to Pak Yon, maybe this is the visit related to the China politics in the global politics to counter the power of the United States in the global politics, balance of power in IR perspective.
Yes, and we are curious now to know what are your thoughts on this, Pak Yon, because we have seen that China is a pivotal actor in terms of bridging between Iran and Saudi Arabia. But now in the political landscape, now current leaders, Indonesia in the picture. Where does Indonesia fit in the picture between Iran, Indonesia, and China? Like, because of China's dominance over politics and economy, does Indonesia need China as well in order to bridge the gap between Indonesia, Asia, and Middle Eastern countries?
Yeah, I think this condition we need to analyze further. But what happened actually in Middle East? There is kind of tension between Iranian and Saudi, and America as the hegemonic power even cannot bring together two countries. But the problem is, I think, the valor of the United States in terms of they cannot bring together those countries who are in tension for the long time, because actually the United States doesn't want the Iran, and also other countries, for instance, Israel also doesn't want the Iran, and to put the Iran as the threat for the in this in this country, in Middle East. So right now, when the position of the America now become very weak in the Middle East, and the United States withdraw its position from the Middle East, and many regime in Middle East worry about the existence of the Iran, if the Iran will be next power and expand their influence in the Middle East. So there is that they can prevent the influence of the Iran. The easy way, the practical way, is to talk with the Iran. So the only power, the great power that can facilitate and mediate this meeting with the same interest is the China. The China also have the interest in Saudi. The China has interest in economic interest in Iran. So the China can bring together the Saudi and Iran, even though also there is kind of in terms of, so when the two countries already sit together and have normalization, actually those countries can solve not the whole problem, but at least more than half problem in Middle East already solved by the meeting between the Saudi and Iran. And yes, we can give praise to the China because of the China approach to this country. Then they can solve half of the Middle East problem. So in terms of Indonesia, I think do we need also need the China in this term? Of course, for the global condition, if we want to have the balance of the power in the Middle East or in other world, the only way is to bring the power together, not dominated by only one single power. So the position of China also important, but of course we always put in the position active and independent. So this position is not, we do not support very much China or United States, but we put in the balance. So we have interest with United States. We have also interest with the China. So the thing that we have to consider is we need and have our independent to decide our foreign policy or our interests. Sometimes we close to the China, sometimes close with the United States, and also sometimes with the Saudi Arabia, sometimes with the Iran. So there is nothing that we can feel that there is imposition or there is kind of power that can decide our policy. So the position of Indonesia, I think, very important, as we know have the active, independent foreign policy. So this is, I think, the position that many countries respect us.
So if we are to be more focused, as it is the bilateral meetings only between Indonesia and Iran, so do you think it's still relevant then, the statement from our Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi back in 2016 that the political aspect, the political relations between Iran and Indonesia are in good condition?
Yeah, of course, the condition of the bilateral relation between Iran and Indonesia is still in quite a good condition, but we need more progressive cooperation. So this meeting, I think, in order to enhance and to have the more progressive cooperation between the Indonesia and the Iran. So it is not enough just in good condition, but of course, how many things that we can get benefit from the cooperation, that we can do more by enhancing the economic partnership, education, culture, and other sector, and even in the discussing about the global political issues. So this is, I think, become more and more progressive in the future.
Okay, that's from Pak Yon. Ibu Tia, do you agree, or would you like to add something?
Yeah, totally I agree, because based on the visit Raja Salman in Jakarta for the last period in 2017.
Yeah.
Maybe the agreement between Indonesia and Saudi Arabia around the 17 agreements, but actually the progress is not landing. So unfortunately, these conditions is not good for Indonesia. It's not benefit for Indonesia. But President Jokowi disappointed when the Raja Salman visited China and signed the agreement until maybe 3,000 trillion in rupiahs, you know. So it's very bigger than Indonesia. And President Jokowi disappointed about this. And hopefully the bilateral between Indonesia and Iran, same like the Visitor Raja Salman here.
Yeah.
So Pak Yon mentions we need the progress, we need how the agreement, signed agreement is landing, and then the cooperation, especially economic cooperations between Iran and Indonesia increase. Not only in the signed agreement, but actually in the progress and in the practice.
Yeah, and how it practice.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we are most likely now looking forward towards the press statement today, and also hopefully the implementation of
right?
the agreements,
because usually from the Middle East countries, only for the assignment or only for the agreement, but not for the implementations.
Which is
unfortunately
the hard part of it, the hard work of it. Well, we are excited to continue more on this conversation with Tia as well as Pak Yon on Zoom, and we will be right back after this with more discussions on Indonesia and Iran and the historic visit today, right after a short break. Stay tuned. Now, welcome back again to TVRI World Special Report on the visit of President Ebrahim Raisi to the presidential palace in Bogor with President Joko Widodo. And we are here again joined with Ibu Tia as well as Pak Yon on Zoom to discuss more on the relationship as well as the developments of relationship between Indonesia and Iran.
Yes, and one thing that is very, very interesting that will be put on the table today, and as President Raisi, this is what he has been highlighting since his presidential years about the narcotics.
Yes.
Yes, and how can you share with us about that topic?
Yes. Mostly, I think the bad issue between Iran and Indonesia is the narcotic drugs. Yeah. So the agreement between the when the President Hassan Rouhani visited Indonesia in 2015, yeah. One of the agreement is the drugs agreements. Why? Because the issues of the narcotic is the biggest issue between the bad issue between the Iran and Indonesia. So yeah, I don't know why the narcotic between Iran and Indonesia is bad issue, because the mostly Iranian visit Indonesia with the drugs, yeah, narcotic.
It's the
so the Polri at that time asked me to translate in Persian language because the Iranian can use the English fluently, and the Polri asked me to translate in Parsi, and the case is the drugs, yeah, narcotic.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, unfortunately, like this, yeah.
Okay, so Pak Yon, can you please add this up from your point of view as well?
Of course, the drug issue become the main issue in Iran, because these drugs coming from the border of the Afghanistan, and also most of the Iran also involved in this kind of trafficking. Then the drug transfer to other country. Even also to the Saudi become the problem of the drug coming from the Iraq, and of course to the Asia. So in terms of the trade, we want to have a good with the Iran trade, but we need to tackle the problem of the drug and narcotic issue, because so many cases the drugs smuggling and other things also come from the people that we identify are the Iranian. So this issue must be settled not only by the Indonesian authority, but also coming from the willingness of the Iranian state in order to prevent more transfer or smuggling of the drug to Indonesia. This is very a big issue. If we talk about the narcotic drug come from other country, the main product and production of the drugs also come from the Iran. So this is, I think, the biggest issue that we need to tackle between both countries.
Big market for one of the countries supply the drugs to the Southeast Asia, maybe Indonesia good market.
Yeah, again, because of the population that we have.
Yes, population, big market. So the one of the case Iran and Indonesia, and always the suspect this criminal from the Iranian. So unfortunately.
Yeah, as Pak Yon said as well, it has to stop because it is a very like special and hard issues that to tackle between two countries.
Yes, especially, and it's a difficult issue to talk about as well, because I think now we're going to the realm of transnational organized crime, which has been at the forefront of a lot of the agendas, not only in this summit in Southeast Asia, but also internationally, such as like drug smuggling, human trafficking.
Yes.
And so I think this issue, particularly between Iran and Indonesia, is something that needs to be solved soon. And to Pak Yon, currently there are also some help with the Indonesian National Narcotics Agency, as well as the UN ODC, or Office on Drugs and Crime. And we know that the modus operandi that is usually utilized in these situations is hand carrying, and in various ways, land, sea, air, but mostly by hand carrying narcotics into the country. And one of the solutions that has been thought up is guarding the entries, especially of ports, in order to ensure that narcotics from Iran or from other countries does not enter Indonesia. How do you see this policy or this solution to the illicit drug trafficking problem? Do you think it is effective? Do you think that there are other ways that we can go about this to solve this problem? We're currently waiting for answer from Pak Yon.
Connections with not good.
It should kind of a delay.
Yes.
How about Ibu Tia, if you have a point of view on that?
Maybe for this meeting, the narcotic problem between Iran and Indonesia, Indonesian government have to enter this agreement about the narcotic. But unfortunately, only food sectors, and then health sectors, and then energy. Where is the agreement about drugs or narcotic?
So you're saying that Indonesia has to be like more strongly set it.
Yes.
Right? Like
more firm.
Yeah, like firmly stated that this is like a big problem that we have to solve between our two countries to stop this.
Yeah, based on the history, I think the President Jokowi is brief to decide about the narcotic. Remember maybe about the case of the foreigners from the Australia. And President Jokowi is very brave to execute two people from the Australia. And Australia protest will cut diplomatic with Indonesia if the Indonesia execute the foreigners from the Australia. But President Jokowi execute absolutely. So I think to cut drugs, including from the Iranian, the narcotic agreement must include to this meeting, not only for the food, economic sector, because it is very important and benefit for Indonesia, I think, and benefit for Iran. About the drugs.
Because President Raisi, again, on his speech during the UN meeting in 2021, he stated like strongly that that is one of the issues that he would like to fight after his election, after he won as a president of Iran.
He must to provide the evidence to the campaign about how the reviews to the drugs in many countries in the world, including in Indonesia.
Yep.
And the actor from the Iranian, for example. Yeah.
And in terms of like talking about transnational organized crime, because
Yes.
I think Indonesia has been, unfortunately, discussing more about it due to the tendency of it's happening in Southeast Asia as well as Indonesia. Do you think that the solutions that are being done for this narcotics problem, in terms of, like you said before, with ties with Australia as well, do you think that it is worth risking, as you said,
Yes.
diplomatic ties with a country in order for it to, because it's kind of like, is it a win-win? Is it a win-lose? Because on one side, you get almost to the core of it.
Yes.
On the other hand, you still want to maintain good diplomatic relationship. So I wonder, do you think is that the reason why, Butia, that is something that is not discussed in this meeting today? Because this is the first meeting that President Raisi is here. They most probably want to talk about economic cooperation,
Yes.
trade, things that will liven up the conversation and open up pathways to cooperation. Do you think that is why that they're not currently talking about this pressing issue of narcotics?
Yeah, I think Indonesia, don't worry with the protest from other countries, yeah, especially with related with the drugs issue, because Indonesia next maybe 50 years next will be a developed country in Southeast Asia. So we are the good market. We are the biggest country in Southeast Asia. So the Indonesian government have to brief to determine the policy between two countries, bilateral or multilateral. Yeah. So we are moving to the another issue, yeah, from the economic sector to the drugs. I think interesting issue because this is related how the state built the country with drugs, with narcotic.
Yep.
It is possible, yeah. So if the country will be developed countries, so the Indonesian government have to pay attention to the problem of the drugs. We can see how the America failed to counter the drugs, narcotic, in their country, and in America is developed countries, maybe the less the home, yeah, and it is very not good for a country like America. So Indonesia have to pay attention the policy of the drugs, narcotics. So have to abuse about the narcotic. And President Jokowi, I think, is good, yeah, about the policy of the drugs, with executions of the two people from the Australia. And next, maybe he has to brief also to another country, not only in Australia. And don't worry if the country will cut diplomatic relations, because we are the big country. If you will go, yeah, go to your country. But Australia, you remember, after the 2 weeks in their country, back again to Indonesia finally.
Yeah. It is still important. That is why to keep diplomatic relations. Hence,
yes.
Although this problem is pressing, I'm sure that the relations still trump that as well. And now we would like to also ask Pak Yon on his thoughts on this issue, on the issue of narcotics. Pak Yon, Indonesia and Iran has had this illicit drug trafficking issue for a couple of years. However, the policies as well as the implementations to prevent as well as solve this issue has not been at the forefront of their agenda. Why do you think that is the case?
Yeah, I think this case should be tackled between two countries through the bilateral relations between Indonesia and the Iranian state. So in order to solve the problem, also we need to have the special task force in order to eliminate and prevent the coming of the narcotic drug from the Iran. So there is kind of cooperation between the National Narcotic Agency in Indonesia preventing the narcotics, and also the national agency in Iran, in order to have the exchange information about who will come, to bring the drug and narcotics. So this kind of information, exchange information, I think very important. So need more cooperation between the Iran and also in Indonesia in order to prevent the coming of the smuggling from the Iran and whatever, because this is also part of the world mafia, and the main sources actually also come from the Iran. So we need to pay attention, and the easy way to have direct coordination with the Republic of the Iran through the exchange information regarding this issue.
We know that President Raisi understands very much about this problem, because Iran you would fight narcotics, and it costs like $1 billion per year for Iran itself. So they actually understand and know how to have a diplomatic relation to fight this narcotics and drug smuggling between countries, and especially they want to stop this issue in their own country, so it will not affect their bilateral relations with other countries. Maybe Ibu Tia also mentioned, like, we are Indonesia, a big country. If such things happen and they will cut the diplomatic relation, then just go ahead, because we are a strong country. But at the same time, we have to also, like, maybe not rethink, but think thoroughly, like more thorough about that, because diplomatic relations that we have built for so many years cannot be cut just like that, even though it is a fatal issue. So what do you think about that, Bayon?
Yeah, of course, it is very good if the president of Iran already committed to the fight against the drug and also narcotic in his country, because it is very important to tackle this problem. Of course, the problem coming from the border, coming from the poor society, when the cash farming is become very interested farming for them, because just plant kind of the drug so they can get money. So this has also become the domestic problem of the Iran. But if we see the development economic also progressive, so the people not rely on the cash money from the drug, but also rely on the trade, rely on the real sector, that Indonesia also can help the Iran in order to enhance their economic, so we can go together to fight against the drug smuggling, because this is not only the problem of the crime, but also the problem of the economy, that we need to work together. So the commitment of the Republic of the Iran, I think, very important from there, so we can prevent the spread and smuggling of the drug to our country. Of course, also our commitment should be very strong. There is no kind of to play with the issue of the drugs, so because this is very vital issue. So we need to strengthen the rule, strengthen the law, strengthen the regulation, and also the very heavy punishment should be given to those who fulfill who perform this kind of the crime, regardless of their nationality.
And also, by another follow-up question to that, do you believe that the current policies that are set in place in terms of drug trafficking in Iran and Indonesia are enough? How do you view the policies that they have currently? Because some of the solutions have been guarding ports, for example, to ensure that the typical modus operandi is not able to be carried out. Is that enough to stop the drug trafficking between Indonesia and Iran, or do you think that there needs to be a more pressing action that needs to be done between both countries?
Yeah, of course, we need more action. Indonesia and Iran, and also the countries surrounding the area in Southeast Asia, for instance, the ASEAN commitment to prevent the drug smuggling also very important, because this drug come from other part, not only coming from the Indonesia, probably sometimes from the Iran to the Thailand, then go to the Indonesia, to the Malaysia and other things. So the cooperation between the region also very important. The cooperation and commitment from the sources of the drug and narcotics also very important. But if both states already agree that the narcotic is the vital part of the commitment that should be follow up in the future, then we hope that the spread and the smuggling of the drug we can reduce for the future. Otherwise, there is no action, then the spread will be very large in the future. So we need to have the full commitment first from the Republic of the Iran, then also our commitment in the region, in Southeast Asia and Indonesia in particular, to fight against the drug smuggling.
Can agree that it's the policy that matters, right? Yeah, Ibu Tia and Pak Yon as well. And if we're talking about the foreign policy, it's the policy and method of a country in managing its foreign affairs and problems in the framework of maintaining its sovereignty, existence, and interest. Iran is a country with unique foreign policy based on the Quran and Islamic narrative.
Foreign policy of the Islamic Republic of Iran is based on the voice of the people and within the framework of the state constitution. All principles and rule of Iran's foreign policy, such as safeguarding national interest, defending the rights of Muslims and the oppressed in the world, establishing peace and complying with international obligations, are based on the Quran and Islamic narrative. The thing that differentiates its foreign policy from other government apparatuses and structures in Iran is the level of dynamic to world change and development, a sustainable process of change which makes Iran's foreign policy flexible towards international campaign and dynamics, but at the same time maintain its principles and foundations. In this format, Iran's foreign policy is imposed along various lines of governance through reduction of tensions, revisionism, and constructive interaction. With the inauguration of the Sayyid Ebrahim Raisi government in Iran in August 2021, a hybrid foreign policy is introduced by state elements in the field of Iran's foreign relations. This approach is a combination of various foreign policy approaches of the past and of the current period, and is based on principles of realism, country priority, coherence and coordination, balance, and dynamism, with the emphasis on creativity and innovation in putting a balanced, smart, and dynamic foreign policy in place. The first thing emphasized by this strategy is balance, which means establishing relationships with various state actors with respect of general polarization in politics, economy, science, technology, culture, defense, security, and other fields. From the Iranian president's perspective, balance in foreign policy means balanced relationships that must be established with all countries in the 5 continents by respecting each other's independence and territorial integrity. Another important matter in Iran's foreign policy is intelligence. Apart from correct understanding of the goals and motives of other parties through constructive interactions with them, as well as adjusting intelligently and wisely Iran's method and strategies. Then, in any deal, always consider short, medium, and long-term national interests. The specified intelligence enables foreign policy to avoid stagnation and make adjustments and modify its approaches according to developments and actions of other actors. Active and dynamic diplomacy is another characteristic of the Iranian government's foreign policy strategy. Under this concept, in accordance with its national, regional, and international objectives, Iran puts forward a positive, constructive, and effective presence in internal relations at bilateral, regional, and global levels. Within the framework of this new doctrine, one of the basic priorities of President Raisi's administration is pursuing as many cooperation and interaction as possible with all neighboring countries. Another priority is to focus on cooperation with countries in Asia.
Okay, we're back on the special report for the bilateral visit between President Joko Widodo and also President from the Republic of Iran,
yes.
President Raisi.
Well, now we are going to continue the conversation with Ibu Tia and as well as Pak Yon. Before this, we just took a glance at a clip about foreign policy in Iran, and it explains a lot about what the policy entails and how it is different compared to other countries around the Middle East as well as the world. So, question for Ibu Tia, how do you think Iranian foreign policy is similar or is in alignment with Indonesian foreign policy? Because now we're talking about bilateral relationship, and also I think the aligning foreign policies, I think it's important because from these agreements, what comes out of it are agreements that eventually are implemented and then becomes policy. And so do you think that, what are some similarities or alignment do you see between the policies of both countries?
Yeah, I think for the foreign policy between Indonesia and Iran, similar like the policy of the Free Palestine. Yes. When the Indonesia is a member in the UN in 2019, the #1 program of Indonesia is the Free Palestine. Like in Iran, and Indonesia always refuse how to open diplomatic relations with Israel. Even two countries in the Middle East open diplomatic relations, United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. And finally, the Saudi Arabia and Israel also open discussions about these relations. And where is the positions of Indonesia when the two countries of the Middle East open diplomatic relation with Israel, for example? Indonesia cannot open, and Bu Retno Marsudi said that Indonesia never open diplomatic relation with Israel if the Israel not free Palestine. If you want to open diplomatic with Indonesia, Bu Retno Marsudi said Israel have to free Palestine and then to state solutions between Israel and Palestine as solutions. But if the Israel refuse, the Indonesia ask about this, Indonesia, foreign policy Indonesia never open diplomatic with Israel. And these decisions similar with the Iran decisions. Iran never open diplomatic with the Israel attack to the Palestine. And different maybe a little bit, Iran support to the weapons, to the Hamas, to the against Israel, and Indonesia fight for the free Palestine on the diplomacy, diplomacy in the UN, and ask to the many countries in OIC, for example, to the free Palestinians. this is the foreign policy, similar foreign policy Iran and Indonesia in the global politics. In OIC, I think Iran respect to Indonesia because the most population Muslim, and the most population Muslim is the interesting politics for Indonesia in the OIC, in the OPEC, and another organization in the world, I think. So before we will discuss about the foreign policy of the Iran, what the similar foreign policy Iran and Indonesia, I think we will understand about the system in the Iran. I think it's very different. Same the democracy system Indonesia and Iran, but it's very different with the political system. Iran democracy system is democracy system, but the system, the structure in Iran different with the Indonesia.
Yes, and that is really interesting. We would really like to get into before that. Pak Yon, what are your thoughts on foreign policy between both countries of Indonesia and Iran? And do you see any kind of similarities, like Butia has said before, between the policies or the styles of how the policies are written and implemented in the public?
Of course, there is kind of similarity between Indonesia and the Republic of the Iran. We have the same objective on the spirit of the anti-imperialism. So the country should be the independent country. So we share this similarity, and also the Iran also part of the Asia-Africa conference that initiated by Indonesia at the time. But of course, in terms of how we perceive the great power, a little bit different. If Indonesia, I think, need the more balanced, active, and independent, but the spirit of the Republic of Iran more to be anti to the U.S. So in Indonesia, we don't have kind of sentiment anti-U.S., but we need to have the balance and justice. But the spirit of the Iran still right now anti-U.S. I don't know in the future, probably there is kind of rapprochement and close relation between the policy of the Iran could change in the future. So the spirit to have more cooperation first with the neighbors and then cooperation with the whole country, including the Western or the U.S. States. So this thing, I think, a little bit different. But the spirit of the justice, the spirit of the active independent, I think, the same. But in terms of the implementing the foreign policy, sometimes a little bit different.
Talking about the foreign policy between Iran and Indonesia, just on February this year, 2023, we held the 8th Indonesia-Iran Policy Planning Dialogue. So it agreed on some issues, and again, we were discussing about, yeah, we agreed on some issues, we signed on the agreement, but how about the implementation? Even though it just still like very early, we can say, but how do you see it, like in the midst of regional and global dynamics marked by a trust deficit, cultivating dialogue to build a shared understanding is very important and relevant. It is quoted from the head of Foreign Policy Strategy Agency. So how do you see it, Pak Yon?
Today is the era of the cooperation and the era of diplomacy. So foreign policy based on hard power or based on coercive approach is not favored by the country. So it is important to have more cooperation rather than to have the war. As we can see what happened right now, the war between the Ukraine and Russia impact the whole country. So, and then we need to have more peace, to have more harmony. It means that cooperation dialogue with the other country should be initiated through dialogue, bilateral dialogue. So I think there is a change in terms of the foreign policy of the Iran that emphasizes more dynamic, then more smart, and also to have more friends rather than enemy, so that there is kind of need to have more cooperation. So this is kind of good sign for the future in order to build mutual understanding, to know each other with probably different culture, different orientation, but have a similar goal in terms of creating peace and harmony of this world order. So this is, I think, the progress in terms of the foreign policy in this world. Yeah.
How about that, Ibu Tia? Because the two think tank institutions that agreed on this Indonesia-Iran policy planning dialogue that was held on February 2023, they agreed to explore cooperation opportunities, obviously in the form of joint research to identify innovative steps.
Yes.
What do you think? What kind of innovative steps that we need to take?
Yes. In IR perspective, international relations perspective, we have three perspectives. Number one, realism perspective, and then the second is the liberalism perspective, and the third, the constructivism perspective. And now I think match with the liberalism perspective and constructivism perspective.
Yes.
Which is the liberalism perspective is the diplomacy approach, like the Pak Yon mentions, and constructivism perspective is the policy from the people, from the society, and then construct to the government, and finally government decided something because the influence from the society, from the people. But realist is the state is everything. State determine the policy, and this era not realism perspective, but liberalism based on the cooperations, and constructivism based on the netizen, based on the people. What netizens say, the policy will decided by the government. And innovations, you mentioned that the innovations, I think. This is related to the cooperation, economic cooperation, liberalism perspective. Each country in the world have to approach this way, innovation, explore, and how to defend the economic development each country, and cooperate each other, between the region, between the state, people to people, state to people, public diplomacy, and others. So innovations related to the how explore investment, for example, tourism sector, based on the diplomacy, economic diplomacy concept. Four sector on diplomacy economy. Number one, investment, tourism sector, migrant workers, and trade. So I think this is the era how each country in the world applicate the liberalism perspective. So not war like the supply, like the maybe the NATO supply the weapon to the Ukraine, or Iran, for example. I'm sorry, apply to the support to the Hamas in Gaza. So I think I agree with the pre-Palestine. Please approach with diplomacy approach, with the cooperations, and approach to people, people to people. I think if each country approach with the diplomacy approach, the peace in the world will create. And so realism is not good for this era. Realism is not good for this era. And Iran maybe have to move to another strategy to pre-Palestine, not supply to weapons via Hezbollah to the Hamas maybe, and then how to the U.S. supply to the Houthi in the Yemen, supply to the rebels in the Syria, supply to the weapons to the Ukraine, for example, and Russia also, so stop, please, via a realism perspective. But this is the constructivism and liberalism, where is the cooperation is point, to create a peace in the world.
And I think that's a really good point, especially now talking about this bilateral cooperation between Iran as well as Indonesia. I think it's a big step for countries, because we have seen in the past before there's been a switch from realism or the big major superpowers to now liberalism and constructivism. And I think we hope that from today's meeting, as well as the future meetings of Indonesia and other countries, that will continue to flourish, as well as strengthen each countries, right? Because like we need each other now, as you said.
Yeah, maybe Indonesia is the model, good model for the create a peace in the world, like how the refuse to the Myanmar conflict in ASEAN, for example, how to show the pluralism and Bhinneka Tunggal Ika here. So I think Iran, Saudi, and Muslim country in the Middle East have to see about how Indonesia maintain the pluralism here to create a peace here.
Yes, and speaking about the diplomatic relations between both countries, moving on to this news, Indonesia and Iran have seen 73 years of diplomatic ties. The relations have deep roots in history, and both nations are ready to have much more prospective future with the visit of Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi, who is now in Indonesia on an official invitation from Indonesian President Joko Widodo.
Indonesia and Iran established diplomatic relations in 1950. Indonesia has an embassy in Tehran, and Iran has an embassy in Jakarta. Both countries are full members of the World Trade Organization, the Non-Aligned Movement, and Organization of Islamic Cooperation. The bilateral relations between the two countries has so far remained close. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo visited Tehran in December 2016 when he held meetings with the then Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. And now, Indonesia is having President of Iran Sayyid Ebrahim Raisi, who is on a 2-day state visit in response to the invitation of President Joko Widodo. The visit is regarded as a turning point in the bilateral relations between the two countries, as well as a commencement of a new chapter in the relations between the two nations. Indonesia and Iran have experienced 73 years of solid diplomatic relations, which now enter the 8th decade. The relations between the two nations have deep roots in history. A long time ago, people of the two countries were able to establish profound bonds with each other through Islam, and Iranian and Indonesian Muslim scholars and intellectuals had beneficial interactions in past centuries. Within the framework of South-South cooperation, the links between Iran and Indonesia have a historical background and demonstrate the common approach of the two countries to create a balanced world. The two nations have also common positions on regional, international, and Islamic issues. Recognizing the need to strengthen regional relations, Iran has commended the performance of ASEAN and emphasized the Islamic Republic of Iran's willingness to develop relations with other member states of the regional bloc within the framework of the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, which was signed by the two sides in 2017. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian said his country considers Indonesia's chairmanship in ASEAN an optimal opportunity for developing relations with the other member states of the group. Iran also welcomes the possibility of regional connections between ASEAN and the Economic Cooperation Organization in West Asia. During the visit of President Sayyid Ebrahim Raisi, Indonesia and Iran are expected to sign a trade agreement, which is called the Iran Preferential Trade Agreement. The Indonesian Trade Ministry said the signing is a result of 7-round negotiation process, which have just been completed. Director of Bilateral Negotiations at the Indonesian Trade Ministry, Joni Marta, said Iran is a non-traditional trade partner with much potential for Indonesia. With the agreement, Indonesia expects the export opportunities for its main and potential products will increase and reach a wider market, especially in the Middle East and Persia. Data from the Indonesian Trade Ministry show total trade between Indonesia and Iran reached $54.1 million as of March this year. Total trade between the two countries in 2022 amounted to $257.2 million. Indonesia mainly export peanuts, motorcycles, industrial monocarboxylic fatty acids, wood fiber, and vehicle parts and accessories to Iran. Meanwhile, its main import commodities from Iran are dates, hydrocarbons such as oil and gas, vegetable alkaloids, instruments, machines, and models designed for demonstration purposes, and wine. With the state visit of President Ebrahim Raisi to Indonesia, let's see increasing valuable opportunities for the public and private sectors of both countries to become more familiar with each other's economic and commercial capacities and capabilities.
Now, welcome back to TVR World Special Report. Still with me, Audrey Utoyo.
And also Aisha Fabian.
And today we are still discussing about the current situation with President Joko Widodo as well as President Ebrahim Raisi, who is now visiting at the Bogor Presidential Palace. So before this, we discussed with Ibu Tia about the current situation of the political landscape. You mentioned international relation terms such as liberalism and constructivism, which is a pattern that you see more with countries around the world. Correct, Ibu?
Yes.
Yes. And so now we would like to get Pak Yon's opinion actually on this. So Pak Yon, do you agree with Ibu Tia? Do you agree that currently the current situation of political landscape in the world has shifted from Machiavellian realism in the past to now more to liberalism, constructivism, and cooperation with each other? Because in the past, we can see a clear distinction between great powers such as US, China, Russia, and developing countries. But now the line seems to blur out more as there's more cooperation between countries. So do you agree with Butia that right now we are shifting towards that?
Yeah, I agree that of course there is kind of correction what happened in the past. For instance, the hegemonic of the great power that determine everything in this world. So there is kind of injustice happen, prevail. So many country also criticize the hegemonic position of the certain country or certain state. So there is kind of the great power also can determine with whom are you going to have the cooperation. For instance, you can have the cooperation with this country, but not that country. So this is, I think, not fair. So the sea become every country, each country has on their willing to have cooperation. There is no such thing that make prevent other country to have and develop cooperation. So become very open to have diplomacy cooperation with others. But of course, we have also to understand the interest of the people, the voice of the people in this country, because sometimes the voice of the country in a different country with other country also different. So we need to respect between the global tendency and also local aspiration. In this move, I think we hope that we can have a better condition, so we can include all the world to have cooperation. So the cooperation become very inclusive, not inclusive. It means that there is no kind to exclude other country not to join the cooperation or not to have experience good prosperity. So this trend, I think, very good in terms of the foreign policy that moving, let's say, from realism to the more the constructivism and liberalism combined between two tendency. But of course, the benefit of these people and the justice also become the consideration to have the foreign policy.
Pak Yon, how long do you think will it take for this integration to happen? Because we can see that in the past few years, with starting from the world wars, and now we're coming to, it's been like hundreds of years since many of the crises that happened in the world as well, and now we're facing another war as well. A lot of things, a lot of uncertainty, as Pak Agung said before, in the world. So how long do you think will it take for it to be full integration or full balance between the powers of the world? Do you think there is ever going to be any kind of balance with powers in the world? Let's say like with the developing countries in Southeast Asia and America and Russia, do you think that that will eventually happen in the future? And if so, like how long?
I think the process to be more integrative worlds that consider each country have their own independent, their own interest, and so they can build cooperation with other countries is going on. So the awareness, the spirit of the awareness happen in each country, I think, become kind of sign that they need to integrate with other countries. So there is no kind of limitation to prevent other country to join or to have cooperation. So the spirit of integration, I think, also the spirit of justice. Yeah? There is no such small country, but on all the whole prosperity. So this is, I think, injustice. So we need also to help other country and also to develop their country. So we are living in this world have same position and also the same right and respect each other. And the new generation, I think, going to this direction rather than just to have their own interest and neglecting other interests of other country. They think to share the same interest, to have the common ground and to develop cooperation, and also to enjoy living in peace condition and avoid any kind of conflict and war. I think this kind of spirit, this kind of awareness also spread all the world, and now is going on. The new generation, I think, also need this kind of condition become better and better. Yeah.
We would support, like, this is the new era, as we said before, between two countries, Indonesia and Iran, and how they both have the similar objective for make the world a better place, a more peaceful place for us to live in, like amidst the giant powers, and how we swift the systems as well, but how the diplomatic and bilateral relations can be built between two countries, between Indonesia and also Iran. And we will be back with the live visuals from the TV pool right from the Bogor Presidential Palace, where the bilateral meetings between Indonesia and Iran takes place. So stay tuned only on TVRI World.